The heavy book rests on the oak table. The dust motes dance in the single shaft of afternoon light. The library is silent. Welcome to a journey into the past. I am your guide through the quiet corridors of history. Close your eyes, let your shoulders fall, and let the story carry you. Imagine a railway line cutting through the green hills of the English countryside. It is early morning. The mist is lifting from the fields. The iron rails are cold and wet with dew. A train moves rhythmically down the track. The wheels turn against the steel. Click-clack, click-clack. The sound is steady. The engineer stands at the window. He watches the line ahead. The world is simple here. The path is set. We think of choices in this quiet place. The heavy iron wheels turn. The momentum carries the machine forward. The track splits in the distance. A lever waits to be pulled. The morning air is crisp and cool. We travel now to the year 1884. The air changes. It becomes salty and thick. The South Atlantic Ocean stretches out in all directions. It is a vast expanse of deep blue water. The yacht Mignonette sails south. The wood of the deck is warm under the sun. The rigging creaks gently in the breeze. Captain Dudley stands at the wheel. The wind fills the white sails. There are 4 men aboard. They watch the horizon. The waves roll by in endless peaks and valleys. The ocean is a desert of water. The world here is defined by the wind and the tide. The weather turns. The sky grows dark with heavy clouds. The yacht is gone now. The 4 men sit in a small wooden lifeboat. The boat bobs on the surface of the great ocean. They are 1,300 miles from land. The silence of the sea surrounds them. The sun rises in the east. It travels across the high arch of the sky. It sets in the west. The cycle repeats. Days turn into nights. The stars come out. The Southern Cross hangs low and bright. The men watch the constellations drift. The water laps against the wood. Time moves slowly in the open water. The supplies are few. They open a tin of turnips. They share the food with care. A turtle swims near the boat. It is caught and brought aboard. It offers sustenance for a few more days. The sun beats down. The thirst begins to grow. The cabin boy, Richard, lies in the bottom of the boat. He is young. He watches the clouds pass. The sea is calm and flat. It looks like glass. The reflection of the sky is perfect. The men wait for a sail. They wait for the wind. The silence stretches on. 19 days pass. The morning is gray. The captain looks at the others. The water cask is dry. A difficult thought enters the quiet space. They speak in low voices. They speak of the greater good. They speak of survival. The boy is weak. He sleeps heavily. The horizon is empty. The decision hangs in the humid air. The captain offers a prayer. The words are lost to the wind. The boy's journey ends in the quiet dawn. The others remain. The sea bears witness to the desperate hour. The waves continue to roll. The 24th day arrives. The sun breaks through the mist. A shape appears on the edge of the world. It is a ship. The sails are German. The bark approaches the small boat. The men are lifted from the water. They are wrapped in blankets. The wooden deck of the rescue ship feels solid. They sail north. They leave the silent ocean behind. The cliffs of Cornwall rise from the sea. The harbor of Falmouth is busy with small boats. The smell of coal smoke is in the air. The men step onto the cobblestones. They are home. The scene shifts to a room of polished wood. It is a courtroom in London. The air is still and smells of old paper. Dust floats in the beams of light. Men in white wigs sit in rows. They wear black robes. They speak of laws written long ago. The judge sits high on his bench. He listens. The pens scratch on parchment. They debate the value of a life. They ask if one must fall so that many may stand. The voices are soft and reasoned. The logic is measured. The questions echo off the high ceiling. We return to the quiet study. The leather chair is soft. The books are stacked high on the shelves. Names are written on the spines in gold leaf. Bentham, Mill, Kant. They are the thinkers of these thoughts. They ask us to measure happiness. They ask us to weigh the good. The candle on the table burns low. The flame flickers. The shadows lengthen on the rug. The questions remain in the air. They are ancient questions. They belong to the history of the mind. The book is closed now. The cover is smooth and cool. The library is dim. The window shows the night sky. The moon is full and white. The world outside is asleep. The history rests. The questions drift away like smoke. The room is dark. The silence is deep. The peace is total. Sleep now. The London fog rolls in from the Thames. It is a thick, soft blanket of gray. It muffles the sound of the city. The cobblestones are slick with moisture. The gas lamps flicker inside their glass cases. They cast pools of yellow light on the pavement. A carriage moves slowly down the street. The horse's hooves clip-clop against the stones. The rhythm is steady and dull. The driver pulls his coat collar tight. The air is cool and damp. It smells of coal smoke and river water. The city is a vast, breathing organism. It is waking up. The debate of the courtroom drifts out into these streets. It enters the coffee houses and the clubs. Inside a warm cafe, the windows are steamed over. Men in wool suits sit at small round tables. They hold newspapers in their hands. The paper is crisp and smells of ink. They read the accounts of the trial. They read about the sailors and the sea. They speak in low murmurs. The china cups clink softly against the saucers. Tea is poured from silver pots. The steam rises and twists in the air. They discuss the weight of numbers. They weigh one life against three. The conversation is polite. It is a slow exchange of thoughts. The philosophy of the courtroom becomes the talk of the morning. We move from the cafe to a place of learning. The iron gates of the university stand open. The stone walls are old and covered in ivy. The leaves are dark green and glossy. The courtyard is quiet. A bell tolls in a distant tower. It marks the hour. Students walk across the grass. They carry leather satchels. They enter a large lecture hall. The room is shaped like an amphitheater. Rows of wooden benches rise up in a semicircle. The wood is polished smooth by years of use. Dust motes dance in the shafts of light from the high windows. A professor stands at the lectern. He opens a heavy book. The pages are yellowed and fragile. He reads the words of Jeremy Bentham. The language is precise. It speaks of pleasure and pain. It speaks of the greatest good. The students listen. They dip their quill pens into inkwells. The scratching of nibs on paper fills the silence. It is a sound like dry leaves skittering on a path. They write down the formulas of happiness. They calculate the sums of morality. The ideas float in the still air of the hall. They are abstract and clean. The narrative drifts back in time, following the words in the book. We find ourselves in a study in the late 18th century. The room is cluttered with manuscripts. Jeremy Bentham sits at a desk. He is an old man with bright eyes. He wears a velvet coat. He writes with a fervor. He imagines a world ordered by utility. He designs a prison where one guard can watch many. He designs a code of law. He believes that logic can solve the puzzles of the heart. The fire in the grate burns low. The shadows of his ideas stretch out across the century. They reach the students in the lecture hall. They reach the sailors on the boat. The scene shifts north and east. We cross the sea to the city of Königsberg. It is winter here. The snow lies deep on the gabled roofs. The streets are white and silent. The river is frozen solid. A man in a gray coat walks down the avenue. It is Immanuel Kant. His walk is so regular that the neighbors set their clocks by him. He walks at the same time every afternoon. The cold air is sharp. He breathes in the frost. He thinks of duties that do not change. He thinks of laws that are absolute. He does not count the consequences. He looks at the moral law within him. He looks at the starry sky above him. The walk continues, one foot in front of the other. The snow crunches softly under his boots. We return to the Victorian present. The theories leave the books and enter a hospital ward. It is night. The ward is long and dim. Rows of iron beds line the walls. The sheets are white and crisp. A nurse moves between the beds. She carries a lantern. The light swings gently. A doctor stands at the foot of a bed. He holds a clipboard. He looks at the patient. He looks at the others waiting. Resources are scarce. Time is short. He must choose where to place his hands. He must choose who receives the medicine. The dilemma is real here. It is not a story on a page. The clock on the wall ticks loudly. The decision is made in the quiet of the night. The work goes on. The scene dissolves to the edge of the city. The rail yard is a maze of steel tracks. They gleam under the moon. A signal box stands high on stilts. It overlooks the junction. Inside, a stove warms the small room. A kettle whistles softly. The signalman stands by the window. He wears a heavy uniform with brass buttons. He watches the line. A train approaches in the distance. The headlight cuts through the dark. It is a beam of pure white. The ground rumbles. The vibration travels up the wooden stairs. The signalman places his hand on a large iron lever. The metal is cool and smooth. He knows the schedule. He knows the path. The train carries hundreds of sleeping passengers. The tracks divide ahead. One path is clear. The other is blocked. He does not know the philosophy of the lecture hall. He knows the weight of the lever. He knows the mechanics of the switch. He squeezes the release. He pulls the lever back. The heavy gears underneath the floor turn. The steel rails outside shift with a heavy clank. The path is set. The train rushes past. The wind of its passage shakes the glass. The red taillights fade into the darkness. The signalman wipes the steam from the window. He picks up his tea. He watches the empty track. The train moves past the signal box. The red light fades into the distance. The wheels continue their rhythm on the steel tracks. Inside the carriage, the air is still and warm. The velvet seats are crushed and soft. A passenger shifts in his sleep. His head rests against the cold glass of the window. Outside, the world is a blur of shadows. The steam from the engine drifts past the pane. It obscures the moon for a moment. Then it clears. The countryside rolls by in silence. Hedgerows divide the fields. Dark shapes of cattle stand near the fences. They do not look up. The train is a moving island of light. Cuts a path through the sleeping world. The journey is long. The destination is fixed. The passengers trust the machine. They trust the rails. They drift in the space between departure and arrival. The sky begins to change. The deep indigo turns to a pale gray. The sun suggests itself on the eastern horizon. The train slows. The rhythm of the wheels changes. The click-clack becomes deeper. We enter the outskirts of the great city. Brick chimneys rise like forests. They stand silent in the dawn. The roofs are wet with morning mist. The train glides under a vast iron arch. We are in the station. It is a cathedral of steam and glass. The engine hisses. A great cloud of white vapor fills the platform. Doors open. Porters in blue uniforms step forward. They move with practiced ease. Leather trunks are lowered. The brass latches catch the early light. The station clock hangs high above the concourse. Its hands move with a heavy mechanical tick. The city has begun its day. We leave the noise of the platform. We travel through the waking streets to a narrow building of red brick. Above the door, a sign swings in the breeze. It reads Telegraph Office. Inside, the room is narrow and smells of ozone and dry paper. A counter of dark mahogany divides the space. Behind it, the operators sit in a row. They wear visors of green glass to shield their eyes. Their fingers hover over brass keys. The sound is a constant, rhythmic tapping. Dot, dash, dot. It is a language of pure efficiency. Messages travel through the wires. They cross oceans and mountains. Decisions made in distant rooms arrive here as simple clicks. The operator does not judge the news. He only transcribes it. He writes the letters on a strip of paper. He glues the strip to a yellow form. The news is sealed in an envelope. It waits in a pigeonhole. The system is neutral. It carries the weight of the world in electric pulses. The message is carried by a boy in a flat cap. He walks through the crowded market square. The air here is thick with the scent of spices and raw wool. Carts are piled high with turnips and potatoes. The earth still clings to the vegetables. A merchant stands by a set of scales. He holds a brass weight in one hand. He places it on the pan. He places a bag of flour on the other. The arm of the scale swings. It seeks balance. He adds a smaller weight. The arm steadies. The exchange is made. Copper coins change hands. The transaction is simple. Value for value. There is no moral ambiguity here. The weight is true. The flour is white. The merchant wipes his hands on his apron. He turns to the next customer. The market is a place of small, clear choices. The boy delivers the envelope to a tall building of gray stone. We enter a room on the second floor. It is a scrivener's office. The silence here is heavy. 20 men sit at high sloping desks. They are copyists. They do not speak. They dip steel pens into inkwells. The ink is black and permanent. They copy legal documents. They copy wills. They copy the transcripts of trials. The scratch of the nibs is the only sound. It is like the sound of insects in dry grass. Dust floats in the sunbeams. The air smells of parchment and wax seals. One clerk pauses. He rubs his eyes. His fingers are stained with ink. He reads the line he has just written. It is a sentence about necessity. It is a sentence about the law of the sea. He does not know the men involved. He knows only the shape of the letters. He knows the flow of the script. He dips his pen again. The work must be finished. The ledger must be filled. We drift away from the ledgers. We move toward the river that cuts through the city. The water is brown and churns with the tide. We arrive at the shipyard. The skeleton of a new vessel sits in the dry dock. It is a massive structure of oak ribs. It looks like the bones of a great whale. The air is sharp with the smell of sawdust and hot tar. Carpenters climb the scaffolding. They carry heavy mallets. They drive wooden pegs into the hull. The sound is a dull thud. Thud, thud. They are building a ship to sail the southern oceans. They are building a shell to hold life against the water. A man stirs a cauldron of pitch. The black liquid bubbles. He dips a brush into the tar. He seals the seams between the planks. He works with care. He knows that a small gap can let in the sea. He knows that the ocean waits. He seals the wood. He makes the vessel whole. The sun moves past its zenith. It begins to lower over the western warehouses. Shadows stretch across the cobbled wharf. Cart arrives at the dockside. It is loaded with barrels. The cooper has done his work well. The iron hoops are tight around the wood. These are the supplies for the voyage. Salted beef, hardtack biscuits, fresh water. A sailor rolls a barrel down a wooden ramp. The wood rumbles against the hollow planks. He guides it with his hands. He lines it up with the others. He counts the stores. He checks the manifest. He marks a line on a piece of paper with a pencil. He calculates the days. He calculates the mouths to feed. The math is simple. There is enough for the journey. He coils a heavy rope. The fibers are rough and smell of hemp. He places it on the deck. The ship is almost ready. The tide is beginning to turn. The water laps higher against the stone wall. The preparations are concrete. The tasks are finished one by one. The barrel rolls into place. It stops against the bulkhead. The sailor straightens his back. He looks at the supplies. He wipes his brow. The work is done for the day. He walks down the gangplank to the solid ground. The sailor leaves the edge of the water. He walks past the brick warehouses. The shadows are long now. High above the street, a window glows with yellow light. It is the sailmaker's loft. The room is vast and open. The floor is polished wood, worn smooth by years of use. Bolts of white canvas lie unrolled like carpets. The fabric is stiff and heavy. It smells of raw cotton and beeswax. The sailmaker sits on a low bench. He wears a leather palm on his hand to push the needle. He pulls a length of waxed twine. The thread hisses through the thick cloth. He stitches a seam, up and down. The rhythm is slow. He is joining panels for a schooner. He reinforces the grommets with brass rings. The sail will catch the wind. It will hold the power of the gale. But here it is just fabric and thread. The work is quiet. The only sound is the snap of the twine and the settling of the canvas. We descend from the loft to the street level. The cobblestones are cooling in the evening air. A small shop front stands on the corner. A bell rings softly as the door opens. It is the cobbler's workshop. The air is rich with the scent of leather and polish. A single oil lamp burns on the workbench. The cobbler picks up a boot. The leather is worn and cracked. He places it on a cast iron last. He selects a piece of new leather. He cuts it with a curved knife. The blade is sharp and silent. He shapes the heel. He takes a mouthful of small tacks. He taps them in with a light hammer. Tap, tap, tap. The sound is precise. He rubs a cloth over the toe. He works the wax into the grain. The leather begins to shine. It reflects the flame of the lamp. These boots will walk the city streets tomorrow. They will carry a man to his work. The cobbler sets the finished boot on the shelf. He wipes his hands on his apron. The city stretches out beyond the shop. We follow the narrow lanes toward the river's industrial edge. A tall chimney releases a plume of dark smoke into the night sky. Inside the brick building, the heat is intense. It is a glassworks. The furnaces roar with a contained fire. The light is orange and shifting. Men move in the shadows like dancers. A glassblower steps toward the glory hole. He dips a long iron rod into the crucible. He gathers a glowing ball of molten glass. It is like honey, thick and luminous. He turns the rod constantly. He must not let the glass fall. He lifts the pipe to his lips. He blows gently. A bubble forms in the orange Massachusetts. He rolls the glass on a steel table. It is the marver. The glass cools and stiffens. He shapes it with wet wooden blocks. Steam rises from the wood. He is making a lens for a lantern. He spins the rod. The centrifugal force flattens the disc. It is a work of breath and fire. He cracks the finished piece off the rod. A boy carries it to the annealing oven to cool slowly. The cycle begins again. The furnace breathes. The glass flows. We leave the heat of the factory. We travel up the hill to the edge of the town. The air is clear here. A dome stands against the stars. It is the observatory. The roof has been cranked open. The telescope points to the zenith. It is a massive tube of brass and mahogany. An astronomer stands on a wooden ladder. He peers through the eyepiece. He is looking at the transit of a planet. He sees a small disk of light millions of miles away. The room is silent. There is no ticking clock here. He measures time by the movement of the spheres. He adjusts a brass wheel. The gears mesh smoothly. He dips a pen into ink. He records a number in a ledger. The coordinates of the sky are fixed. He charts the course of the night. The data is cold and pure. He is a watcher of the deep dark. He turns the page. The paper crinkles softly. He returns his eye to the glass. The night deepens. The city sleeps, but the preparation for the next day begins. In a cellar beneath a busy street, the air is warm and smells of yeast. It is a bakery. The ovens are brick-lined caves. The fire has been banked, but the heat remains. A baker stands at a massive wooden table. It is dusted with white flour. He lifts a heavy mass of dough. He folds it over. He pushes it down with the heels of his hands. He is kneading the bread for the morning. The dough is elastic and alive. It fights back against his pressure. He works rhythmically. Push, turn, fold. Dust motes dance in the light of the gas jet. He takes a metal scraper. He divides the dough into loaves. He places them in tins. He covers them with a cloth to rise. The yeast works in the silence. The bread expands. It is a slow chemistry. The baker checks the temperature of the oven. He adds a shovel of coal. The fire glows red. The promise of the morning meal is here in the warmth. Near the bakery, a set of large wooden doors stands open. It is a livery stable. The smell of hay and horses is strong and comforting. A lantern hangs from a beam. A groom walks down the central aisle. The horses are shifting in their stalls. They are large dray horses with heavy hooves and broad chests. Their coats are thick for the winter. The groom enters the stall. He speaks in a low, calming voice. He runs a curry comb over the horse's flank. The dust rises. He brushes the mane. The horse stamps a foot on the straw. It is a hollow, heavy sound. The groom checks the shoes. He picks up a hoof. He cleans it with a metal pick. He drops the hoof. He lifts a heavy leather collar from a peg. It is polished and stiff. He places it over the horse's head. He buckles the strap. The brass fittings jingle. He leads the horse out of the stall. The animal's breath steams in the cool air. He guides it to a wagon parked in the yard. He backs the horse between the shafts. He connects the traces. The chains clink. The wagon is loaded with crates. The driver climbs up to the bench. He takes the leather reins in his hands. He clicks his tongue. The horse leans into the collar. The wheels begin to turn on the cobblestones. The wagon rolls out of the yard and into the misty street. The heavy wagon wheels rumble over the cobblestones. The iron rims strike the granite with a dull, rhythmic sound. The driver guides the horse toward the edge of the city. The buildings here are lower. The air smells of wet earth and stagnant water. They arrive at the side of a canal. The water is a dark, glassy ribbon that stretches into the countryside. A narrow boat is moored against the stone wall. The paint on the boat is bright red and green. Roses are painted on the cabin doors. The driver halts the wagon. He sets the brake. The horse lowers its head to graze on a patch of grass. The transfer begins. Heavy sacks of grain are lifted from the wagon bed. They are passed to the boatman. He stacks them in the hold. The weight of the cargo settles the boat lower into the water. The wood creaks gently. It is a slow exchange of burden. The land gives its harvest to the water. The boatman unties the thick hemp rope from the iron ring. He pushes off from the wall with a long ash pole. The boat drifts into the center of the canal. The water ripples outward in slow circles. A towpath runs alongside the water. A horse waits there, harnessed to a long line. The line pulls taut. It drips with water. The horse leans forward. The boat begins to move. It glides silently. There is no engine noise here. There is only the soft wash of the bow cutting the water and the plodding of hooves on the dirt path. They approach a lock. The great wooden gates are closed. The water level is high. The boatman steps onto the bank. He leans his back against the heavy balance beam of the gate. He pushes. The gate swings open slowly. The boat enters the stone chamber. The gates close behind it. The sluices are opened. The water rushes out with a deep, gushing sound. The boat begins to sink down into the shadows of the lock. The wet stone walls rise up on either side. It is a descent into the cool earth. The journey continues at the lower level. The canal passes under a brick bridge. The reflection of the arch creates a perfect circle in the water. We leave the towpath and follow the road that leads away from the canal. It winds toward a large brick building with tall windows. It is a textile mill. A tall chimney stands guard. Inside, the air is warm and filled with white dust. It smells of raw cotton and machine oil. Rows of power looms stand on the wooden floor. They are machines of iron and leather. A system of belts turns overhead. The shafts rotate. The looms are working. The shuttle flies back and forth. Click, clack, click, clack, carries the weft thread through the warp. The fabric grows inch by inch. It is a white sheet of plain weave. The weavers watch the threads. They tie a broken end with a quick, practiced knot. Their hands are smooth. The rhythm of the room is hypnotic. It is the heartbeat of industry. The cotton has traveled across the ocean to be here. Now it becomes cloth. The finished bolt of cloth is carried to a table. It is inspected. It is folded. It is wrapped in brown paper and tied with string. We follow the cloth as it leaves the mill. It travels to a shop on a quiet London street. The window displays a suit of dark wool. A bell rings as we enter. The air is quiet and smells of chalk and steam. A tailor stands at a high table. He unrolls a length of the fabric. He smooths it with his hand. He picks up a piece of flat tailor's chalk. He draws lines on the cloth. They are the map of a garment. A curve for the shoulder, a straight line for the hem. He picks up a pair of heavy shears. The steel is cold and sharp. He cuts. The sound is a crisp crunch as the blades slice through the fibers. He works with care. He cuts the lining. He cuts the canvas interlining. The pieces are stacked. They await the needle. The tailor threads a needle with black silk. He ties a knot. He begins to baste the pieces together. The needle dips in and out. It is a dance of steel and thread. In the back of the shop, a door opens to a small courtyard. A man is working over a copper basin. He is a dyer. The water in the basin is a deep indigo blue. Steam rises from the surface. It carries the scent of mordant and dye wood. He dips a skein of wool into the vat. He uses a wooden paddle to submerge the fibers. The wool soaks up the color. It changes from white to the color of the midnight sky. He lifts the wool out. It drips heavy blue drops back into the basin. He hangs the skein on a wooden rack to dry. The air oxidizes the dye. The color deepens. It becomes rich and permanent. The dyer wipes his hands on a rag. His skin is stained with the tools of his trade. He checks the fire under the vat. He adds a block of peat. The smoke is thin and gray. The process is ancient. The chemistry is slow. We move from the dyer's yard to a workshop nearby. The sign above the door is a golden boot. But inside, the craftsman is working on something else. He is a leather worker, but he is making a saddle. The leather is thick and stiff. It is the color of chestnuts. The saddle tree sits on a wooden stand. It is made of beech wood reinforced with steel. The saddler stretches the wet leather over the seat. He pulls it tight with pliers. He tacks it into place. He uses a bone tool to rub the leather smooth. He works out the wrinkles. He is shaping the seat for a rider who is not there. He selects a piece of felt for the padding. He stitches the panels. He uses 2 needles, passing them through the same hole from opposite sides. It is a saddle stitch. It is strong enough to hold a man's weight. The smell of the tannery is strong here. The workshop is cluttered with straps and buckles. Brass fittings gleam in the shadows. The saddler hums a low tune. He polishes the leather with a soft cloth. The surface begins to shine. The finished saddle is carried out to a waiting carriage. The carriage is black and glossy. The varnish is deep. A footman opens the door. The interior is lined with velvet. We do not enter. We watch the carriage roll away. We turn our attention to the street itself. A group of men are working on the road. They are pavers. They are kneeling on the ground. A pile of granite sets lies beside them. The stones are gray and square. The earth has been leveled and covered with sand. The master paver picks up a stone. He weighs it in his hand. He turns it to find the best face. He places it in the sand. He picks up a heavy wooden beetle. It is a large mallet reinforced with iron rings. He swings it down. Thud. The stone settles into the bed. He picks up another. He places it close to the first. Thud. The stones form a fan pattern. It is a mosaic of gray granite. The work is hard on the knees. The men move forward row by row. They are covering the earth with stone. They are building the path for the city. A water cart approaches the new pavement. It is a large barrel on wheels. A pipe at the back has holes in it. The driver opens a valve. Water sprays out onto the stones. It washes the sand into the cracks. It locks the stones together. The wet granite glistens. The dust is laid. A street sweeper follows behind. He carries a birch broom. The twigs are stiff. He sweeps the excess sand into the gutter. The sound of the broom on the stones is a rhythmic scratch. Swish, swish. He moves with a steady pace. He clears the way. He stops to lean on his broom. He looks at the work. The road is clean. The lines of the stones are straight. The city is ordered. On the corner of the paved street stands a small shop with a bow window. Inside, the shelves are lined with jars of sweets. It is a confectioner's shop. The air smells of boiled sugar and peppermint. A copper pan sits on a gas burner. The sugar syrup is bubbling. It is clear and hot. The confectioner watches the thermometer. He waits for the hard crack stage. He pours the syrup onto a marble slab. The stone is cold. The syrup spreads out like a pool of glass. He adds a drop of red oil. The scent of roses fills the room. He uses a metal scraper to fold the sugar. He turns it over and over. It begins to cool. It becomes opaque. He pulls the sugar. He stretches it into a long rope. He cuts it with shears. Snip, snip. The pieces fall onto a tray. They are hard and shiny. They are small jewels of sweetness. He dusts them with powdered sugar. He places them in a glass jar. He screws on the lid. The jar is placed in the window. The light shines through the red candy. Outside the shop, the afternoon light is fading. A man with a ladder walks down the street. He is carrying a bucket of paste and a roll of paper. He stops at a blank wall. He sets down the bucket. He unfurls the paper. It is a poster. It announces a concert in the park. He dips a wide brush into the paste. He slaps the wet glue onto the brickwork. He lifts the paper. He smooths it onto the wall. He uses the brush to flatten the bubbles. The paper becomes part of the wall. The ink is black and bold. He picks up his bucket. He moves to the next space. He is leaving messages for the morning. He is covering the old with the new. The paste dries in the cool air. The bricks are rough beneath the paper. He reaches the end of the street. He cleans his brush on the edge of the bucket. He folds his ladder. He walks away into the twilight. The man with the paste bucket disappears around the corner. The street is left to the gathering dusk. The blue of the sky deepens into a heavy violet. The air grows cooler. A new figure emerges from the shadows at the end of the block. He wears a long coat and carries a wooden pole. At the top of the pole is a small brass hook and a shielded flame. He is the lamplighter. He approaches the first iron post. He reaches up with the pole. He catches the latch of the glass lantern. The pane swings open. He turns a small valve. The gas hisses softly. He touches the flame to the mantle. There is a gentle pop. A ball of warm yellow light blooms inside the glass. He closes the pane. The light reflects on the damp pavement. He moves to the next post. His steps are measured. He leaves a trail of golden beads behind him. The city is preparing for the dark. We turn away from the street and push open a heavy door with a brass handle. A bell chimes above us. We are in an apothecary's shop. The air is thick with complex scents. It smells of dried sage, peppermint, and camphor. The walls are lined with mahogany shelves. Hundreds of glass jars sit in rows. Some contain colored liquids: amber, ruby, emerald. Others hold dried roots and leaves. The apothecary stands behind a high counter. He is an older man with silver spectacles. He is reading a prescription written on a scrap of parchment. He opens a drawer. The wood slides smoothly. He takes out a small ceramic jar. He removes the stopper. He uses a silver spatula to lift a small amount of white powder. He places it on the brass pan of a balance scale. He watches the needle. He adds a tiny grain. The scale balances. The measurement is exact. He pours the powder into a mortar. He grinds it with a pestle. The sound is a rhythmic scrape. Grind, grind, grind. He tips the mixture onto a square of waxed paper. He folds the paper, corner to corner, tuck and crease. He ties the small packet with a thin string. He writes a name on the outside. The medicine is ready. Outside the shop, the streets are busier now. Carriages are moving toward the entertainment district. We follow the crowd to a large building with a colonnaded front. It is a theater. The gas lamps above the entrance are blazing. We do not go in the front door. We slip down a side alley to the stage door. Inside, the air is cool and smells of sawdust and grease paint. We are backstage. The height of the fly tower stretches up into the darkness above. Ropes and pulleys hang like the rigging of a ship. A stagehand stands by a large wooden wheel. He grips the spokes. He begins to turn. A heavy curtain of red velvet rises slowly. It reveals the stage. The floorboards are scarred and painted. Carpenter is kneeling. He is hammering a brace onto a piece of scenery. It is a flat painted to look like a forest. He taps the nail. The sound echoes in the empty cavern of the stage. He stands back. He checks the angle. The illusion holds. Below the stage, in the orchestra pit, the musicians are arriving. They take their seats on wooden chairs. They open black cases. A violinist lifts his instrument. The varnish is dark and rich. It gleams in the low light. He tightens the horsehair of his bow. He rubs a block of rosin along the hair. A fine white dust falls onto his trousers. He places the violin under his chin. He plucks the A string. The note is pure and clear. He turns the ebony peg. He listens. He plays a scale. The notes run up and down like water. A cellist adjusts the end pin of his cello. He settles the large instrument between his knees. The wood resonates with a deep, mournful hum. The conductor steps onto his podium. He taps his baton on the music stand. Tap, tap. The tuning stops. The silence is expectant. They wait for the cue. We leave the theater before the music begins. We travel to a quiet square in a wealthy neighborhood. The houses are tall and white. Iron railings guard the basements. We descend a set of stone steps to the service entrance of a grand hotel. The kitchen is a world of heat and motion. The ceiling is high, but the air is filled with steam. A row of copper saucepans hangs from a rack. They are polished to a mirror shine. They reflect the flames of the great range. A chef stands at a wooden chopping block. He holds a heavy knife. He is dicing carrots. The knife moves with incredible speed. Chop, chop, chop. The orange cubes are uniform. He sweeps them into a bowl. He moves to a stockpot simmering on the stove. He lifts the lid. The steam smells of beef and onions. He stirs the liquid with a long wooden spoon. The liquid swirls. He lowers the heat. The simmer becomes a gentle bubble. At the back of the kitchen, a heavy door leads to the scullery. Here, the air is cooler and smells of soap and lemon. A large stone sink is filled with hot water. A scullery maid is washing silver platters. The water is gray with suds. She lifts a heavy tray. She scrubs it with a brush. She rinses it under a tap. The silver shines under the gaslight. She places it in a wooden rack to dry. Next to her, a boy is polishing cutlery. He holds a fork in a cloth. He rubs the tines. He breathes on the metal and rubs again. He places the fork in a velvet-lined box. It joins a row of identical forks. They lie together like soldiers. The work is repetitive and calm. The clatter of the silver is the only sound. From the scullery, a narrow staircase winds down into the earth. The air grows cold and dry. We are in the wine cellar. The walls are made of rough brick. The floor is packed dirt. Wooden racks stretch from the floor to the arched ceiling. Thousands of bottles sleep here in the dark. Dust covers the glass like a gray blanket. Spiderwebs connect the necks of the bottles. A sommelier walks down the central aisle. He carries a candlestick. The flame flickers in the draft. He stops at a bin marked with a slate tag. He reads the year written in chalk. 1860. He reaches in. He rotates the bottle gently. He checks the cork. It is sound. He lifts the bottle from its cradle. He carries it horizontally. He does not want to disturb the sediment. He walks back toward the stairs. His shoes crunch softly on the dirt floor. He shields the candle flame with his hand. He carries the history of a summer long past. Upstairs, far above the cellar, the dining room is ready. The curtains are drawn against the night. The fireplace is roaring with a coal fire. The heat radiates into the room. A waiter stands by a sideboard. He is decanting the wine. He holds the bottle over a candle flame. He watches the neck of the bottle. He pours the dark red liquid into a crystal decanter. The wine flows smoothly, catches the light. He stops pouring before the sediment reaches the neck. He places the glass stopper in the decanter. He sets it on a silver tray. He picks up a crumb scoop. He moves to a table where guests have just left. He scrapes the white tablecloth. The crumbs vanish into the silver pan. He straightens a fork. He aligns a glass. The room is a theater of service. Every object has its place. Every movement is rehearsed. We leave the warmth of the hotel and return to the night air. It is fully dark now. A fog has descended, blurring the outlines of the buildings. We walk toward the river. The sounds of the city fade. We arrive at a large industrial building near the docks. The windows are dark, but a faint rumble comes from within. It is a newspaper printing works. We enter the basement. The machine is a giant. It is a rotary press, black iron and gleaming steel. It sits on a concrete foundation. The smell of ink and oil is overpowering. A roll of newsprint as wide as a man is tall feeds into the mechanism. The paper is white and continuous. A pressman checks the tension. He adjusts a heavy roller. He wipes his hands on a rag. He pulls a lever. The machine begins to move. It starts with a low groan. The cylinders turn. The paper is pulled through, passes over the plates of type. The ink is transferred. The machine picks up speed. It finds a rhythm. Thump-clush, thump-clush. It is a heartbeat. The paper flies through the folders. A blade slices the continuous sheet. The finished newspapers slide down a chute. They land in a stack. A boy gathers them up. He squares the edges. The ink is still wet. It smudges his fingers. He ties a bundle with rough twine. He knots it tight. He throws the bundle onto a cart. He goes back for the next stack. The press does not stop. Prints the stories of the day, the trials, the ships, the prices of corn, the births and deaths. The words flow like a river of black on white. The pressman watches the gauge. The steam pressure is steady. The night shift has begun. The work will continue until the dawn brings the light back to the streets. The boy stacks another bundle. He pushes the cart toward the loading bay doors. The wheels squeak on the concrete. He opens the doors to the night. The cart wheels rattle over the stones of the loading bay. The boy pushes the heavy wooden gates outward. The night air rushes in. It is cool and damp. A horse-drawn van waits in the street. The side of the van is painted with gold letters. The driver sits high on the box. He wears a heavy oilskin coat. The boy passes the bundles of newspapers up to him. The driver stacks them behind his seat. He covers them with a tarpaulin to keep them dry. He nods to the boy. He snaps the reins. The horse leans into the collar. The van lurches forward. It disappears into the mist. The sound of hooves fades. The boy stands in the doorway. He wipes his ink-stained hands on his apron. The press behind him continues its rhythmic thumping. The van arrives at the railway terminus. The great glass roof arches overhead. Steam engines hiss and sigh on the tracks. Porters with trolleys move through the gloom. The newspapers are loaded onto a special carriage. This is the traveling post office. Inside, the walls are lined with sorting racks. The floor vibrates as the train begins to move. A row of sorters stands at the wooden counters. They do not look out the windows. They are focused on the letters in their hands. The envelopes are white and cream. Some are sealed with red wax. The men read the addresses. They slot the letters into the pigeonholes. London, Birmingham, Manchester. Their hands move in a blur. The train gathers speed. The carriage sways gently. The men balance easily. They are sailors of the rails. The lamp overhead swings on its chain. The light dances on the paper. The train rushes through the countryside. The darkness outside is total. We approach a small wayside station. The train does not stop. A sorter walks to the side of the carriage. He opens a sliding door. The wind roars in. It smells of wet grass and coal smoke. He swings out a heavy leather pouch on a metal arm. On the platform, a net is waiting. It is hung from a tall standard. The train passes in a flash of noise. Thud. The leather pouch hits the net. The catch is made. The sorter pulls the arm back in. He slides the door shut. The silence returns to the carriage. The men return to their work. The letters for the north are still waiting. The rhythm of the wheels does not change. On the platform of the country station, the station master lowers the net. He unhooks the leather pouch. It is heavy. He carries it into his small office. A coal fire burns in the grate. A kettle sits on the hob. He unlocks the pouch. He tips the contents onto his desk. He sorts the bundles. Letters for the manor. Letters for the vicarage. A copy of the morning newspaper for the doctor. He stamps the date on a receipt. The ink pad is dry. He presses the stamp down firmly. Clunk. The sound is satisfying. He places the letters in a wooden rack. He looks at the clock on the wall. The pendulum swings. Tick, tock. The sun will be up soon. He puts on his cap. He opens the door to the lane. The birds are beginning to sing in the hedgerows. We follow the lane away from the station. It winds between high banks of earth. The roots of ancient trees twist in the soil. We arrive at a farm gate. A shepherd is waiting. He opens the gate. His dog runs ahead, a black and white shadow in the gray light. The sheep are gathered in the lower field. Their wool is heavy with dew. They huddle together for warmth. The shepherd walks among them. He counts them. His boots leave deep prints in the soft grass. He checks the lambs. He leans on his crook. The wood is polished smooth by years of use. He looks at the sky. He reads the weather in the clouds. The wind is shifting to the west. It will be a mild day. He whistles to the dog. The dog drops to its belly. The sheep begin to move. They flow like a river of wool through the gate. The bells on their necks clink softly. The flock moves up the hill. We leave them and descend into the valley. A river runs through the bottom. It turns a large wooden wheel. The wheel is dark with algae. It drips water as it rises. This is the mill. Inside, the air is white with flour dust. The floorboards are dusted with powder. The miller stands by the hopper. He pours a sack of grain into the funnel. The kernels are golden and hard. They slide down toward the stones. The millstones are massive discs of granite. They turn against each other with a deep, low rumble. The sound is felt in the chest. The grain is crushed. It becomes soft, warm flour. The miller catches a handful. He rubs it between his thumb and forefinger. It is fine. It is ready. He adjusts a wooden lever. The flow of grain slows. The stones sing a different note. The process is old. The stone eats the grain. The river drives the stone. Behind the mill, a man is working on a boundary wall. He is a dry stone waller. He has a pile of rough gray stones at his feet. He does not use mortar. He uses gravity and friction. He picks up a stone. He turns it in his hands. He feels the weight. He looks for a flat face. He places it on the wall. It wobbles slightly. He picks up a small shard of rock, a pinning stone. He wedges it into the gap. The stone settles. It is solid. He places the next one. He is building a puzzle that must stand for 100 years. He works with a slow, steady rhythm. Lift, turn, place, wedge. The wall grows inch by inch. It follows the curve of the land. A robin lands on the finished section. It watches the man. The man pauses. He wipes his brow with the back of his hand. The sun is breaking through the trees. We cross the river on a small stone bridge. On the other side, there is a workshop with large windows facing north. The light is even and cool. Potter sits at a wheel. It is a kick wheel. He pushes a heavy flywheel with his foot. The wheel spins. A lump of wet clay sits in the center. He wets his hands in a bowl of water. He leans forward. He cups the clay. The rough mound becomes a smooth cone. He pushes down. He opens the center. The walls of the pot rise up. They are thin and gray. He uses a piece of wet leather to smooth the rim. The wheel slows. He kicks the flywheel again. The clay obeys his hands. He is making a jug. He uses a wire to cut the pot from the wheel. He lifts it gently. He places it on a wooden board. It joins a row of identical jugs. They are waiting for the kiln. They are waiting for the fire to make them stone. Further down the lane, the air smells of wood smoke and beeswax. A small cottage stands with its door open. Inside, a woman is making candles. She is a chandler. A large vat of melted tallow sits over a low fire. The fat is hot and clear. She holds a wooden frame. Cotton wicks hang from it in rows. She lowers the frame. The wicks disappear into the hot liquid. She lifts them out. A thin layer of wax clings to the string. She hangs the frame on a rack to cool. She takes another frame. She repeats the motion. Dip, lift, cool. Dip, lift, cool. The candles grow thicker with each dip. They are tapered and smooth. The room is warm. The work is silent. It is a lesson in patience. The candles will burn in the windows of the village tonight. They will push back the dark. Outside the cottage, a man sits on a low stool in the sun. He has a bundle of willow rods beside him. They are soaked in water to make them pliable. He is a basket weaver. He holds a partially finished basket between his knees. The base is woven tight. He is working on the sides. He takes a long rod. He weaves it in and out of the upright stakes. Over, under, over, under. The willow creaks as he bends it. He uses a heavy iron weight to beat the rod down. Packs the weave tight. He trims the end with a sharp knife. He selects another rod. He is making a pannier for a donkey. It must be strong. It must hold the weight of the market goods. His fingers are strong and calloused. He works without looking. The pattern is in his muscle memory. The basket grows. It smells of the riverbank. It smells of green wood. The day moves on. We travel to the edge of the village where the woods begin. A man is working in a clearing. He is a charcoal burner. A large mound of earth sits in the center of the clearing. Smoke seeps from small vents in the side. Inside the mound, wood is baking. It is not burning with a flame. It is cooking in the dark. The man watches the color of the smoke. It is blue-gray. That is good. If it turns white, the fire is too hot. He climbs a ladder to the top of the mound. He carries a bucket of water. He sprinkles the earth. The steam hisses. He is controlling the heat. He is turning oak and ash into fuel for the iron furnaces. His face is blackened with dust. His eyes are bright. He lives with the smoke. He sleeps in a small hut made of turf. He watches the mound day and night. It is a living thing. It breathes. He rakes the earth at the base. He seals a small crack. The smoke steadies. The process continues. We leave the woods and find a road that leads to a quarry. The cliff face is white limestone. Men are working on the ledges. They are stone cutters. One man stands before a large block. He holds a chisel and a wooden mallet. He is cutting a groove. Tap, tap, tap. The sound rings out against the stone cliffs. He is cutting a lintel for a doorway. The line must be true. He checks it with a steel square. He brushes away the white dust. He strikes the chisel again. The stone chips away in small flakes. He is revealing the shape inside the rock. Cart waits nearby. Two heavy horses stand patiently. The cart is reinforced with iron. A crane made of timber stands at the edge of the quarry. A chain hangs from it. The men wrap the chain around a finished block. The crane creaks. The stone lifts into the air. It hovers for a moment. Then it lowers onto the cart. The springs groan under the weight. The driver climbs up. He clicks his tongue. The horses lean forward. The stone begins its journey to the city. The stone cart moves slowly along the packed dirt road. The iron wheels grind against the grit. The heavy horses bow their heads. Their breath comes in short, rhythmic bursts of steam. Ahead, a white gate bars the way. It is a toll house. The building is small and octagonal, built of yellow brick. A chimney releases a thin ribbon of smoke. The toll keeper steps out. He wears a heavy woolen waistcoat and fingerless gloves. He holds out a hand. The driver reaches into his pocket. He produces a copper penny. The coin is warm from his touch. He drops it into the keeper's palm. The metal clinks. The keeper nods. He walks to the gate mechanism. He pushes the counterweight. The wooden barrier rises. It points to the sky like a finger. The cart moves forward. The horses pick up their pace. The road is open. The road dips down toward the river valley. The sound of rushing water grows louder. We arrive at a construction site. A new bridge is rising from the stream. It is a structure of gray limestone. A wooden cofferdam has been built into the riverbed to hold back the current. Inside the dam, the floor is muddy but free of the river's flow. Masons stand on wooden scaffolding. They are dressed in white canvas trousers. They hold trowels crusted with lime mortar. A heavy stone is lowered on a chain. A mason guides it with his hand. He signals to the crane operator. The stone settles onto its bed of wet mortar. The mason taps it with the handle of his trowel. He checks the level. The bubble in the glass vial floats to the center. The line is true. The bridge is a promise of connection. It grows stone by stone across the water. On the riverbank, a short distance away, a man is working with a tripod. He is a surveyor. He sets the wooden legs of the stand into the soft earth. He mounts a brass instrument on the top. It is a theodolite. The metal is cold and polished. He adjusts the screws at the base. He looks through the telescope. He focuses the lens. Across the meadow, his assistant stands holding a tall wooden staff painted with red and white stripes. The surveyor reads the numbers on the staff. He notes the angle on a vernier scale. He writes the figures in a leather-bound field book. He is measuring the land. He is turning the curve of the hill and the bend of the river into geometry. He signals to the assistant with a wave of his hand. The assistant moves the staff 10 paces to the right. The process repeats. The map is drawn in numbers before it is drawn in ink. Beyond the meadow, the land rises into an orchard. The trees are old and gnarled. Their branches are heavy with late apples. The fruit is russet and gold. In a sheltered corner of the orchard, a row of white wooden boxes stands in the tall grass. It is an apiary. The air here vibrates with a low, constant hum. The beekeeper approaches. He moves with slow, deliberate steps. He wears a wide-brimmed hat with a mesh veil that covers his face. He holds a metal canister with a bellows attached. It is a smoker. He squeezes the bellows. Puff, puff. Cool gray smoke drifts from the nozzle. It smells of burning burlap and pine needles. He directs the smoke into the entrance of a hive. The bees retreat. They become calm. He lifts the wooden roof. He uses a flat tool to pry up a frame. He lifts it into the light. The comb is a perfect hexagon pattern of wax. The cells are filled with amber honey. He checks the queen. He lowers the frame gently. He respects the colony. The work is a partnership between the man and the insect. At the edge of the orchard stands a large barn with wide doors. Inside, the air is sweet and acidic. It smells of crushed apples. In the center of the room is a large stone trough. A heavy stone will stands in the trough. A horse is harnessed to the wheel. The horse walks in a slow circle. The harness creaks. The stone will rolls over the apples. Crunch, squash. The fruit is reduced to a pulp. This is the pomace. A man with a wooden shovel scoops the pulp onto a press. He builds a stack. A layer of pulp, a layer of straw, a layer of pulp. He places a heavy wooden board on top. He turns a large iron screw. The boards descend. The juice begins to flow. It runs into a wooden tub. It is golden and cloudy. It is the blood of the harvest. The press groans under the pressure. The juice will become cider. It will sleep in oak barrels through the winter. We leave the barn and follow a path that runs alongside a stream. The water is clear and fast. It leads us to a long, low building made of stone. The windows are covered with wire mesh. This is a paper mill. The air inside is humid and warm. It smells of wet linen and starch. In the main room, A large vat is filled with a milky white liquid. It is pulp made from cotton rags. A man stands by the vat. He is the vatman. He holds a wooden frame with a wire mesh screen. This is the mold. He dips the mold into the vat. He lifts it out. A layer of wet pulp clings to the screen. He gives the mold a quick shake. Left to right, front to back. The fibers lock together. The water drains away. He passes the mold to another man, the coucher. The coucher presses the wet sheet onto a piece of woolen felt. He places another felt on top. The stack grows. Sheet, felt, sheet, felt. They are making paper by hand. It is a delicate craft. The sheets are pressed to remove the water. They are hung over ropes in the loft to dry. The air circulates around them. The paper is crisp and white. It waits for the ink. The dried paper travels to a workshop in the nearby town. It is a bookbindery. The room is quiet and smells of leather and glue. A woman sits at a sewing frame. She takes a folded section of the new paper. It is a signature. She pierces the fold with a needle. She passes a linen thread through the holes and around a set of vertical cords. She pulls the thread tight. She adds another signature. She sews them together. The book begins to take shape. It is a block of pages. She passes the block to the binder. He clamps it in a wooden vise. He rounds the spine with a hammer. Tap, tap. He brushes hot glue onto the back. He takes a piece of goatskin leather. It has been pared thin at the edges. He pastes it. He stretches it over the cardboard covers. He smooths it down with a bone folder. The leather is cool and supple. It covers the mechanism of the book. He heats a brass tool in a small gas flame. He presses it into the leather spine. Gold leaf is laid in the impression. The title shines in the lamplight. The book is finished. It is a vessel for thoughts. We leave the bindery and walk down the cobbled street. The sun is setting now. The shadows lengthen. We arrive at a shop with a large window filled with clocks. Inside, the sound is a chaotic heartbeat. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Hundreds of clocks are running at once, but they are not all in perfect time. The clockmaker stands at a workbench. He wears a magnifying loupe in one eye. He is working on the movement of a carriage clock. The brass gears are spread out on a velvet cloth. They are tiny and precise. He picks up a mainspring with a pair of tweezers. He fits it into a barrel. He places a drop of oil on a pivot. The oil is clear and viscous. He assembles the escapement. He winds the key. The balance wheel begins to oscillate. Spin, return, spin, return. The clock comes alive. He listens to the beat. It is steady. He places the movement back into its brass case. He sets the hands to the correct hour. He closes the glass door. Behind the shop, a narrow alley leads to a small courtyard. A man is working over a fire. He is a wheelwright. A wooden wagon wheel leans against a post. It is made of elm and ash. The spokes are tight. Beside the fire, an iron tire is heating in the coals. The metal glows a dull red. The heat radiates in waves. The wheelwright uses long tongs to lift the tire. It is heavy. He carries it to the wooden wheel. He fits it over the rim. The fit is tight. Smoke rises where the hot iron touches the wood. He grabs a hammer. He strikes the tire. Clang. He forces it down. He shouts to his apprentice. The boy throws a bucket of water onto the wheel. Hiss. A cloud of steam erupts. The iron cools instantly. It shrinks. It grips the wood with immense force. The wheel is bound. It is strong enough to carry a ton of weight. The steam clears. The wheelwright inspects his work. The joint is seamless. The evening air cools. We walk toward the edge of the town, where the houses give way to gardens. A glass greenhouse stands in the twilight. The panes are misted with condensation. We enter. The air inside is tropical and heavy. It smells of damp earth and ferns. A gardener is tending the boiler. He opens the iron door of the furnace. The firelight illuminates his face. He shovels coal into the grate. The flames roar softly. The heat travels through pipes that run under the tables. On the tables, exotic orchids bloom in the humid air. Their petals are waxy and spotted with purple. Large palm leaves brush against the glass. The gardener checks a thermometer. He adjusts a vent in the roof. He is the keeper of a captured climate. He closes the furnace door. The glow fades. The plants breathe in the warm dark. We move further out to the coast. The sea is dark and restless. A lighthouse stands on a rocky promontory. It is a tower of whitewashed stone. We climb the spiral stairs. The steps are iron and ring under our feet. Up and up. We reach the lantern room at the top. The glass is thick and curved. The keeper is there. He is polishing the great lens. It is a Fresnel lens, made of concentric rings of glass prisms. It looks like a giant jewel. He takes a rag and rubs a smudge from the glass. He checks the oil reservoir. It is full. He strikes a match. He lights the mantle. The light flares up. It is brilliant and white. He releases the brake on the clockwork mechanism. The heavy weights begin to descend in the tower. The lens begins to rotate. Slowly, smoothly, the beam of light sweeps across the dark water. Flash, darkness, flash, darkness. It is a warning and a welcome. The keeper steps out onto the gallery. The wind is cold and salty. He grips the railing. He looks out at the horizon. A ship is a distant shadow. It alters its course, guided by the light. Below the cliffs, in a small cove, a boat has been pulled up onto the shingle. It is a fishing boat. The nets are piled on the beach. They are dark and wet. A fisherman sits on an overturned crate. He holds a wooden needle. He is mending a tear in the net. The twine is rough. He ties a knot. He pulls it tight. He cuts the end with a knife. His hands are scarred from the salt and the lines. A lantern sits in the stones beside him, casts a small circle of light. He checks the cork floats along the top of the net. He checks the lead weights along the bottom. The net must hang true in the water. It must be invisible to the fish. He works methodically. The tide is coming in. The waves hiss against the pebbles. The water creeps closer to his boots. He finishes the row. He gathers the net in his arms. He piles it into the boat. He prepares for the morning tide. The fisherman pushes his boat into the surf. The keel scrapes against the shingle. He steps into the water, the cold sea rising to his knees. He climbs aboard. He sets the oars in the rowlocks. He pulls. The boat lifts over the first breaker. He rows out into the darkness. High above him on the cliff path, a figure watches. It is the Coast Guard. He wears a heavy wool coat with brass buttons. A telescope is tucked under his arm. He walks the beat. The path is narrow and chalky. It follows the jagged edge of the land. He stops at a wooden post. He marks his time. He scans the horizon. He is looking for signals. He is looking for the flash of a lantern that should not be there. The sea below is a vast, breathing presence. He turns his collar up against the wind. He continues his patrol. The rhythmic crunch of his boots on the gravel is the only sound. The path descends from the cliffs and widens into a road. It leads toward the outskirts of a port town. A long, low building stretches out before us. It is a rope walk. The structure is narrow but hundreds of yards long. Inside, the air smells of tar and hemp. The light is dim, filtering through dusty windows. A ropemaker walks backward down the length of the shed. He has a bundle of hemp fibers wrapped around his waist. He spins a wheel with one hand. He feeds the fibers with the other. He twists them into a yarn. He walks slowly, retreating from the wheel. The yarn lengthens. It vibrates in the air. Other men walk beside him. They are twisting strands into a thicker rope. It is a hawser for a ship. The tension is high. The walk is a dance of backward steps. They reach the end of the shed. They coil the finished rope. It is stiff and heavy. It smells of the forests and the sea. Beyond the rope walk, the ground becomes marshy. The earth is dark and wet. A tall brick chimney rises from the fens. It belongs to a pumping station. We enter the engine house. The air is hot and smells of oil and steam. A massive beam engine dominates the room. The iron beam rocks back and forth on a central column. It is the size of a house. One end of the beam is attached to a piston in a steam cylinder. The other end drives a pump deep in the earth. The engine sighs. Whoosh, thump, whoosh, thump. The flywheel spins. It is painted red and green. The brass fittings gleam. An engineer walks around the machine with an oil can. He touches the bearings. They are warm. He drips oil into a cup. The machine drinks it. The pump lifts tons of water from the marsh, pours it into a drainage canal. The land is being claimed from the water. The engine never sleeps. It is the heart of the dry land. We follow the drainage canal until it meets a river. On the bank, the earth is clay. A brickworks has been established here. The ground is scarred with pits. A pug mill stands in the center. A horse walks in a circle, turning the blades that mix the clay. The mud is smooth and gray. A molder stands at a bench. He takes a clod of clay. He throws it into a wooden mold. Thwack. He uses a wire to cut off the excess. He turns the mold over. A wet brick slides out. He places it on a barrow. He repeats the motion. Throw, cut, turn. The bricks are stacked in long rows to dry. Further back, a kiln is burning. It is a clamp kiln built of the bricks themselves. Smoke rises from the top. The fire is deep inside. It glows orange in the cracks. The heat radiates outward. The smell is dry and dusty. The clay is baking into stone. These bricks will build the houses of the next century. The river widens as it flows toward the city. Large barges are moored at a wharf. We step onto the cobblestones of a brewery yard. The gates are open. The air is sweet with the scent of malted barley. We enter the brew house. Huge copper vessels stand on an iron gallery. They are mash tuns. Steam rises from them in thick white clouds. A brewer climbs a ladder. He holds a long wooden paddle. He looks into the tun. The porridge of grain and hot water is steeping. The enzymes are working. They are turning starch into sugar. He opens a valve. The sweet liquid, the wort, begins to run off. It flows through a glass sight tube. It is amber and clear. He tastes a drop. It is rich and sugary. He nods. The wort is pumped to the copper kettle. He adds a sack of hops. The flowers are green and papery. They will give the bitterness. The boil begins. The liquid rolls and tumbles. The brewery is a kitchen for giants. From the brewery, a dray wagon loaded with barrels rumbles out into the street. We follow it to the commercial district. The morning fog is lifting. We arrive at a tall warehouse near the docks. The sign above the door says, "Tea Importers." Inside, the floor is covered with wooden chests. They are wrapped in rattan and stamped with Chinese characters. A tea taster stands at a round table. It is a revolving table. Rows of white porcelain cups and bowls are set out. A kettle boils on a gas ring. An assistant weighs out tea leaves. He places them in the pots. He pours the boiling water. The leaves unfurl. The aroma fills the room. It smells of dried grass and flowers. The taster watches the clock. He waits for the perfect infusion. He pours the tea into the cups. He lifts a cup. He brings it to his lips. He slurps the liquid loudly to aerate it. He rolls it over his tongue. He spits it into a brass spittoon. He marks a grade in a ledger. Pico, sochong, gunpowder. He blends the leaves. He is painting with flavor. The blended tea is packed into tins. A boy carries a crate of tins out the back door. He walks through a narrow alley that opens into a market square. It is Covent Garden. The market is waking up. Carts are piled high with cabbages and carrots. But in the corner, there is a splash of color. It is the flower market. Women in shawls stand behind baskets of blooms. Violets, primroses, hothouse lilies. The air is cold, but the scent is of spring. A flower girl sits on an overturned crate. She has a bundle of wire and green tape. She picks up a rose. She wires the stem to make it stiff. She adds a sprig of fern. She wraps the tape. She is making a buttonhole for a gentleman. Her fingers are quick and stained with sap. She places the finished flower in a flat basket lined with moss. She sprinkles water over the blooms. The drops glisten like diamonds. She arranges the colors: red, white, purple. She creates a garden in a basket. Beyond the market, the streets are lined with shops. A scent of roasting coffee drifts from a doorway. We enter a small room. A large iron drum is turning over a gas flame. The coffee beans inside are tumbling. They click against the metal. The roaster watches through a small mica window. The beans are turning from green to yellow to brown. Smoke begins to rise. It is blue and acrid. The beans crack. It is the first crack. The roaster listens. He waits. The beans grow darker. The oil comes to the surface. He pulls a lever. The drum opens. The hot beans pour out into a cooling tray. They smoke and hiss. A mechanical arm stirs them. Round and round. They must cool quickly or they will burn. The smell is rich and deep. It wakes the senses. The roaster runs his hand through the warm beans. They are satin smooth. He opens a paper sack. He scoops the coffee in. He weighs it. He folds the top of the sack. The sack of coffee is carried to a waiting handcart. A young man in a white apron pushes the cart. He navigates the morning traffic. He stops in front of a grand townhouse. He goes down the steps to the area door. The kitchen maid opens it. She takes the coffee. She carries it into the kitchen. The range is hot. A large black kettle is simmering. She takes a brass grinder from the shelf. She pours the beans into the hopper. She turns the handle. Crunch, crunch. The sound is loud in the quiet kitchen. The grounds fall into the wooden drawer at the bottom. She pulls out the drawer. The aroma rises. She tips the grounds into a silver coffee pot. She pours the water. She sets the pot on a tray. She adds a jug of cream and a bowl of sugar lumps. She picks up the tray. She walks toward the service stairs. Her footsteps are soft on the stone floor. She begins the climb to the breakfast room. Upstairs, in a room filled with morning light, a governess is preparing for the day. She stands by a large schoolroom table. It is scarred with ink stains. She places a slate and a slate pencil at each chair. She opens a box of chalk. The dust floats in a sunbeam. She goes to the bookshelf. She selects a globe. It is made of varnished paper on a plaster sphere. She spins it gently. The countries blur. Pink for the empire, blue for the oceans. She places it in the center of the table. She takes a pointer. She checks the inkwells. They are full. She straightens a map on the wall. It is a map of Europe. She hears the sound of small feet in the corridor. She smooths her skirt. She clasps her hands. The door handle turns. The lesson is about to begin. The children enter the room. They walk to their chairs. They stand behind them. They wait for the signal to sit. The children sit in unison. The wooden chairs scrape softly against the floorboards. The sound is dry and brief. They fold their hands on the table. The governess taps the map with the wooden pointer. She speaks of trade winds and currents. Her voice is low and steady. It is a rhythm the children know well. They open their books. The paper is thick and creamy. The scent of old glue and vanilla rises from the pages. A boy dips his pen into the ceramic inkwell. He writes the date at the top of the page. The nib scratches the paper. He forms the letters with care. The loop of the L. The cross of the T. The sunlight moves across the desk. It illuminates the dust motes dancing in the air. The room is a capsule of learning. The world outside is distant. The focus is here on the ink and the word. Outside the schoolroom window, the view extends to a green square. A gardener is working on the lawn. He does not use a machine. He holds a long-handled scythe. He stands with his feet apart. He swings the blade in a wide, low-arc swish. The steel cuts through the damp grass. The motion is fluid, comes from the waist. He steps forward. Swish. The grass falls in neat rows. It smells of chlorophyll and earth. The gardener stops to wet the blade. He takes a stone from his belt. He runs it along the edge of the steel. Rasp, rasp. The sound rings out in the morning air. He wipes the blade with a cloth. He resumes the rhythm. The lawn becomes a velvet carpet. The cut grass lies in swathes, drying in the sun. It is a slow, ancient dance with the land. On a bench nearby, a man sits with a sketchbook on his knees. He is a landscape artist. He holds a stick of charcoal. His fingers are smudged with black dust. He looks at the line of trees. He looks at the way the light hits the bark. He makes a mark on the paper. It is a quick, confident stroke. He shades a shadow. He rubs the paper with his thumb to soften the edge. He captures the stillness of the oak. He captures the movement of the leaves. He turns the page. The paper crinkles. He starts a new study. A nursemaid pushes a pram along the gravel path. The wheels crunch softly. The artist sketches the curve of the pram. He sketches the bonnet of the nurse. He is recording the moment. He is stopping time with a piece of burnt wood. We leave the park and walk down a quiet residential street. The houses here have heavy oak doors and brass knockers. We stop at a house where a window is open. Inside, a man is leaning into the body of a grand piano. He is a piano tuner. The lid of the instrument is propped open. The strings stretch out like a golden harp. They are under immense tension. The tuner holds a tuning hammer. He fits it over a steel pin. He holds a tuning fork in his other hand. He strikes the fork against his knee. He holds it to his ear. It hums a pure A. He plucks the string. The note vibrates. It is slightly flat. He turns the hammer. The pin tightens. The pitch rises. He listens to the beat frequencies. The wavering stops. The two sounds merge into one. He moves to the next string. He dampens the others with a strip of red felt. He works his way up the keyboard, note by note, octave by octave. He is bringing order to the chaos of wire and wood. Further down the street, a small shop displays elegant hats in the window. A bell tinkles as we enter. The air is warm and humid. A milliner stands at a table. A copper kettle is boiling on a stove. A jet of steam shoots out. She holds a piece of felt over the steam. The fabric softens. It becomes pliable. She pulls it over a wooden hat block. The block is shaped like a human head. She stretches the felt down. She pins it at the base. She uses her palms to smooth the crown. The felt takes the shape of the wood. She leaves it to cool and set. On another table, she is trimming a bonnet. She selects a ribbon of blue silk. She ties a bow. Her fingers are nimble. She stitches the bow to the brim. She adds a spray of artificial flowers. They are made of stiffened velvet. She steps back. She inspects her work. The hat is balanced. It is ready to be worn. We travel to the industrial edge of the city, near the river. A factory chimney releases a plume of white smoke. The air smells of lavender and tallow. It is a soap works. Inside, the floor is slippery and clean. Large wooden frames stand in rows. They are filled with cooling soap. It is a pale, creamy yellow. A worker unlatches the side of a frame. The wood falls away. A massive block of solid soap is revealed. It weighs hundreds of pounds. He picks up a wire cutter. It is a steel wire with wooden handles. He loops it around the block. He pulls. The wire slices through the soap like it is butter. He cuts it into slabs. He cuts the slabs into bars. He passes the bars to a woman at a stamping machine. She places a bar in the mold. She pulls a lever. The heavy die comes down. Think. It imprints the name of the company. It imprints a crown. She lifts the bar. It is perfect. She wraps it in waxed paper. She folds the ends. The scent is clean and simple. From the soap works, we move to a cooler place. We descend a flight of stone steps into a cellar. The temperature drops. The air is damp and smells of earth and milk. This is a cheese aging room. Wooden shelves line the walls from floor to ceiling. On the shelves sit hundreds of wheels of cheese. They are wrapped in cloth-bound bandages. They are dusty and gray. A cheesemonger walks down the aisle. He carries a small hammer. He stops at a wheel. He taps it. The sound is solid. He nods. He lifts the heavy wheel. He turns it over. He brushes the rind with a stiff brush. Dust flies in the low light. He places it back on the shelf. He moves to the next one. The turning ensures even aging, prevents the moisture from settling. He is the custodian of the fermentation. He checks the humidity gauge on the wall. He adjusts a vent. The cheeses sleep in the dark. They ripen slowly. Time is the ingredient here. We leave the cellar and travel to a workshop with tall windows facing north. The light is consistent and shadowless. A large loom stands against the wall. It is a high-warp tapestry loom. The warp threads hang vertically, taut and white. A weaver sits on a bench behind the loom. He works with his hands above his head. He holds a bobbin of colored wool. He passes it behind a warp thread. He pulls it through. He beats it down with a heavy comb. The wool packs tight. He is building a picture row by row. He looks at a cartoon, a painted design hanging behind him. He matches the color. He is weaving a scene of a forest. Green leaves, brown trunks, a stag standing in a clearing. The work is incredibly slow. An inch a day. He changes the bobbin. He switches to silk for a highlight on the water. The silk catches the light. The tapestry grows. It absorbs the silence of the room. It is a painting made of thread. We climb high above the city now. We are on the scaffolding of a great cathedral. The wind is stronger here. It whistles through the stonework. A stone carver stands on a wooden platform. He is wearing a canvas apron covered in gray dust. He is working on a block of limestone that is part of a flying buttress. He is carving a gargoyle. The creature is taking shape. It has deep-set eyes and a beak. The carver holds a mallet and a fine chisel. He taps the stone gently. Chip, chip. A flake of stone falls away. He blows the dust out of the crevice. He is carving the feathers of the wing. He works with precision. He knows that this carving will sit high above the ground. Few will see the details, but he carves them anyway. He carves for the integrity of the stone. He carves for the sky. He steps back to look at the profile. The shadow defines the form. He is satisfied. We descend from the heights to the cathedral workshop below. The room is filled with sheets of colored glass. Ruby red, cobalt blue, gold. A glazier is working on a large table. A full-scale drawing of a window lies on the table. He places a piece of red glass over a section of the drawing. He takes a diamond cutter. He scores a line on the glass. The sound is a sharp scratch. He taps the glass from underneath. It snaps cleanly along the line. He uses a pair of grazing pliers to nibble away the rough edge. He places the glass into a channel of lead came. The lead is soft and H-shaped. He bends it around the glass. He cuts the lead with a knife. He fits the next piece of glass. It is a puzzle of light. He builds the panel piece by piece. When the leading is done, he applies flux to the joints. He picks up a hot soldering iron. He touches the lead. The solder melts. It flows like silver mercury. It seals the joint. He wipes it clean. He lifts the panel. The light streams through the colors. The red glows like fire. The blue is deep as the ocean. He leans the panel against the wall. The window is ready to hold the light. The stained glass panel rests against the limestone wall. The light passes through the red and blue glass, painting the stone floor in soft, colored pools. High above the workshop, the air begins to vibrate. The great bells of the cathedral are waking up. We climb the narrow wooden stairs to the belfry. The steps are worn into hollows by centuries of feet. The air is cool and smells of ancient oak and dust. We reach the ringing chamber. The bell ringers stand in a circle. They are men of the parish. They hold the sally, the woolen grip of the long ropes. The conductor nods. They pull. The ropes descend through the holes in the ceiling. The wheels turn in the darkness above. The bells tumble. Bronze strikes metal. The sound is a cascade. It is a mathematical pattern. A change ring. Bob minor. Stedman triples. The men count the rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. They do not speak. The effort is physical. Their breath is steady. The tower sways gently with the momentum of the tons of metal. The sound rolls out over the city roofs. It marks the passing of the hour. It is a voice of iron that speaks to the whole city. The last peal fades. The ringers catch the ropes. The bells come to rest, mouth up. The vibration lingers in the timber beams. Higher still, above the bells, is the clock room. The wind whistles through the wooden louvers. The mechanism is a house of iron and brass. It is the size of a small room. The pendulum swings. It is 10 feet long. Whoosh, tick, whoosh, tock. A man in a heavy coat is winding the weights. He turns a giant crank. The steel cable tightens on the drum. It lifts the heavy stone weights up the shaft. He works with a slow, grinding rhythm. Click, click, click. The ratchet holds the tension. He oils the escapement with a long-spouted can. A drop of oil falls on the brass. Spreads. The gears mesh. The time is captured in the teeth of the wheels. He checks the pilot dial. It matches his pocket watch. The city below relies on this machine. He wipes the crank. He closes the door of the cabinet. We descend from the tower and walk to a studio with a glass roof facing north. The light is soft and diffuse. A photographer stands behind a large wooden camera. It is mounted on a heavy tripod. He ducks under a black velvet cloth. He sees the world upside down on the ground glass screen. A sitter is posing in a chair. A young woman in a silk dress. She sits very still. Her head rests against a hidden metal stand to keep her steady. The photographer emerges. He inserts a glass plate holder into the camera. He removes the slide. He holds the brass lens cap. He raises his hand. "Hold quite still," he whispers. He lifts the cap. 1, 2, 3, 4. The light burns the image onto the chemicals. He replaces the cap. The moment is caught. The woman breathes again. She blinks. The exposure is made. The photographer carries the plate holder into a small room. It is lit by a red lantern. The air smells of collodion and ether. He removes the glass plate. It looks blank in the dim light. He holds it by the edges. He slips it into a tray of developer fluid. He rocks the tray gently. Swish, swish. The liquid washes over the glass. Slowly, a ghost appears. A face, a dress, a hand. The negative image darkens. He watches the chemistry work. He lifts the plate. He rinses it in water. He places it in the fixing bath. The milky haze clears. The image becomes crisp. He holds it up to the red light. It is perfect. He places it in a wooden rack to dry. A slice of time has been preserved in silver salts. We leave the studio and walk down a quiet street lined with workshops. The air is filled with the scent of varnish and sawdust. We enter a room where a luthier is building a violin. He sits at a workbench covered in tools. He holds a piece of maple wood. It has a tiger stripe grain. He is carving the back plate. He uses a small, curved plane. The thumb plane. He pushes it across the wood. Curl, curl. Tiny shavings of wood fall to the floor. They are thin as paper. He checks the thickness with a caliper. It must be exact. He taps the wood. It rings with a musical note. He is tuning the wood before it is even a shape. He picks up a pot of glue. It is warm hide glue. He brushes it onto the ribs. He clamps the back to the sides. He tightens the wooden clamps. The body of the instrument is closed. It waits for its voice. At the next bench, another craftsman is making the bow. He holds a stick of Pernambuco wood. It is dense and heavy. He heats it over a small alcohol lamp. The wood becomes pliable. He bends it gently against his knee. He is creating the camber, the curve that gives the bow its spring. He checks the curve against a template. He nods. He takes a hank of white horsehair. He combs it straight. He ties one end with a strong thread. He inserts it into the frog, the ebony block at the base of the bow. He secures it with a small wooden wedge. He combs the hair again. He stretches it to the tip. He secures it there. He tightens the screw. The hair becomes a ribbon of white. He tests the tension. It is strong. It is ready to bite the strings. We leave the instrument makers and enter a secure room with iron bars on the windows. It is a goldsmith studio. The air is hot from a small furnace. A crucible sits in the coals. Inside, gold coins are melting. They turn into a liquid mirror. The smith uses tongs to lift the crucible. He pours the molten metal into an ingot mold. It flows like heavy syrup, fills the mold. It begins to cool immediately. It turns from bright yellow to dull orange. He tips the ingot out onto an anvil. He picks up a hammer. He strikes the gold. Clang. He is forging a ring. He heats it again. He strikes it again. He shapes it around a steel mandrel. It becomes a perfect circle. He uses a file to smooth the edges. Rasp, rasp. The gold dust falls into a leather apron. The skin on his lap. He brushes the dust into a jar. Nothing is wasted. In the corner of the room, a lapidary is working. He is cutting a gemstone, a sapphire. He holds the rough stone on a DOP stick with wax. He presses it against a spinning copper wheel. The wheel is coated with diamond dust and oil. He grinds a facet. The sound is a high-pitched whine. He lifts the stone. He inspects it with a loupe. The facet is flat and polished. He turns the stick slightly. He cuts the next facet. He is creating a window for the light to enter the stone. He works with geometric precision. The stone must be symmetrical. He polishes the table, the flat top of the gem. It glows with a deep inner blue. He removes the stone from the stick. He cleans it with alcohol. He places it on a piece of white velvet. It is a drop of frozen ocean. It waits for the setting. We move from the hard surfaces of the gem cutter to a softer place. A shop filled with delicate scents. It is a perfumery. The walls are lined with glass bottles. Ambergris, musk, rose oil, bergamot. A perfumer stands at a table. He holds a glass pipette. He draws up a small amount of golden liquid. He releases a drop onto a strip of paper. He waves the paper under his nose. He inhales. He closes his eyes. He is composing a scent like a musician composes a chord. He adds a drop of jasmine. He smells again. The notes blend. Top note, middle note, bass note. He measures the ingredients into a crystal flagon. He stirs the mixture with a glass rod. The scent fills the air. It is floral and rich. He stoppers the bottle. He ties a silk ribbon around the neck. He writes the formula in a leather book. The recipe is a secret. The day is moving toward evening. We walk to a square where a large market hall stands. Inside, the stalls are closing, but one corner is busy. It is the cheese market. Large wheels of cheddar are stacked like masonry. A cheese factor walks among the stacks. He carries a long iron tool, a cheese iron. He pushes it into the side of a wheel. He twists it. He pulls out a core of cheese. It is a cylinder of yellow. He crumbles a piece between his fingers. He smells it. He tastes it. It is sharp and mature. He nods to the farmer. He pushes the rest of the core back into the wheel. He seals the rind with his thumb. He marks the wheel with a chalk X. The deal is done. The wheels are loaded onto a cart. The cart horse stamps its hoof on the sawdust floor. The sound echoes in the empty hall. We leave the market and find a small shop with a sign that says, "Umbrella Maker." The shop is narrow and cluttered. Canes of bamboo and hickory stand in barrels. Rolls of black silk lie on the counter. The maker selects a frame of steel ribs. He opens it. It snaps into a dome. He measures a triangle of silk. He cuts it with shears. He cuts 7 more. He sews them together on a machine. The needle moves up and down. Whir. He fits the silk cover over the steel frame. He stitches the tips to the ribs. He takes a handle made of polished horn. He glues it to the shaft. He closes the umbrella. He wraps a strap around it. He fastens the button. It is a tight, black batten. It is ready for the London rain. He places it in the rack by the door. Outside, the street lamps are being lit. We walk toward the river again, but this time to a different trade. A large yard is filled with stacks of timber. Elm, pine. This is a cooperage. A cooper is making a barrel. He stands in a pile of shavings. He holds a stave, a curved piece of oak. He shapes the edge with a draw knife. He places the staves inside an iron hoop. He builds a circle of wood. He lights a small fire of shavings inside the half-finished barrel. The heat softens the wood. He uses a heavy hammer to drive the hoops down. Clang, clang. The staves pull together. The barrel takes its shape. It is tight and strong. He cuts a groove for the lid. He fits the head. He hammers the final hoop. He rolls the barrel across the yard. It rumbles on the hollow ground. He stands it up among its brothers. It waits for the beer. It waits for the wine. The night has fully arrived. We walk to the edge of the city, to a place where the houses are large and set back from the road. We enter a garden gate. The path is lined with yew hedges. A greenhouse glows in the dark. We have been here before, but tonight we go to the potting shed behind it. A gardener is sitting at a bench. He is sorting seeds. He holds a dried poppy head. He shakes it over a paper envelope. Thousands of tiny black seeds fall out. They sound like rain. He folds the envelope. He writes the name in a neat hand, Papaver Riaz. He places it in a wooden drawer. He takes a bulb, a tulip bulb. It is brown and papery. He inspects it for rot. It is firm. He places it in a tray of sand. He is preparing for the spring. He is banking the life of the garden. He blows out the candle. He locks the door. He walks back to the main house. The gravel crunches under his boots. The garden sleeps. The gardener's footsteps fade into the silence of the house. The night passes over the estate. The moon sets. A new day begins, not with the sun, but with the squeak of a heavy iron hinge. We are at the edge of the estate, near the lake. A large mound of earth rises from the ground. It is the ice house. A door opens into the hill. The air that rushes out is cold and still, carries the memory of winter. 2 men enter with lanterns. The light reveals a deep brick pit. At the bottom, huge blocks of ice are stacked like crystal masonry. They were cut from the frozen lake months ago. They are packed in straw to keep them from weeping. The men attach a grapple to a block. They haul on a pulley. The chain rattles. The ice rises from the dark. It is opaque and blue-white. It steams in the morning air. They slide it onto a wooden cart lined with sawdust. They cover it with a heavy woolen blanket. The cold is contained. The cart moves off toward the town. The cart arrives at a shop with an open front. The slab is made of white marble. It is wet and cool. This is the fishmonger's. The ice is chipped into shards. It is spread over the stone. A crate arrives from the coast. The fishmonger lifts the lid. Inside, the catch lies in rows. Silver scales catch the early light. He lifts a large place. The skin is spotted with orange. He places it on the ice. He arranges a row of mackerel. Their backs are striped like tigers. He sprays water over them from a watering can. The water glistens. The eyes of the fish are bright and clear. He takes a sprig of parsley. He places it in the mouth of a salmon. It is a still life from the sea. He wipes his hands on his blue apron. He stands back. The display is ready. It is cold, clean, and orderly. Behind the shop, a brick outbuilding smells of wood smoke and salt. It is a smokehouse. The door is thick and blackened with soot. Inside, rows of herrings hang on wooden rods. They are suspended high in the rafters. On the floor, a fire smolders. It is not a flame, but a bed of oak sawdust. The smoke rises slowly. It is a thick, aromatic fog. It wraps around the fish, turns the silver skin to gold. The process is slow. It takes hours for the flavor to penetrate. A worker enters. He checks the fire. He rakes the sawdust. He adds a handful of juniper berries. They crackle softly. The scent changes. It becomes sharper. He looks up at the golden rose. He touches a fish. It is firm. The cure is working. He closes the door. The smoke continues its silent work in the dark. We leave the food trades and walk to a street known for its metalworkers. The sound of grinding fills the air. It is a high-pitched hum. We enter a cutler's workshop. A row of men sit at large sandstone wheels. The wheels turn in troughs of water. A grinder holds a steel blade against the stone. It is a knife blank. Sparks fly, but they are quenched instantly by the water. He is shaping the edge. He rocks the blade back and forth. Grind. Cool. Grind. Cool. He checks the bevel. It must be uniform. He runs his thumb lightly across the flat of the blade. It is smooth. He passes the blade to the polisher. The polisher holds it against a wheel covered in leather and rouge. The steel begins to shine. It becomes a mirror. It reflects the face of the man who made it. In the corner of the workshop, another man is making the handles. He is working with horn. A cauldron of water boils on a stove. He drops a piece of cow horn into the water. It softens. It becomes pliable. He lifts it out with tongs. He places it in a screw press. He turns the handle. The press squeezes the horn flat, cools and hardens. He takes the flat piece. He cuts it into scales. He drills holes for the rivets. He fits the scales to the tang of the knife. He hammers the brass rivets. Tap, tap, tap. He sands the horn. The grain appears. It is a swirl of cream and brown. He buffs it with beeswax. The handle is warm to the touch. It is organic and strong. It marries the steel to the hand. Next door, the trade is softer but no less precise. A brush maker sits at a bench. The air smells of pitch and animal hair. He holds a wooden back for a hairbrush. It is made of satinwood. It is drilled with dozens of tiny holes. He takes a tuft of boar bristles. He loops a piece of copper wire around the middle. He pulls the wire through a hole in the wood. The bristles stand up straight. He pulls tight. He moves to the next hole. Loop, pull, loop, pull. His hands move with a rhythm born of years of practice. He does not count the holes. He knows the pattern. He trims the bristles with a pair of shears. Snip. The surface is level. He glues a veneer over the back to hide the wires. He clamps it. The brush is solid. It waits to smooth the hair of a lady in a distant room. We travel away from the noise of the workshops to a quiet cottage window. The light is good here. A woman sits with a large, firm pillow on her lap. A parchment pattern is pinned to the pillow. It is covered in hundreds of pins. She is a lace maker. Hanging from the pillow are dozens of wooden bobbins. They are carved from bone and wood. Some have names inscribed on them. She picks up 2 bobbins in each hand. She crosses them. She twists them. Click, click. The sound is like rain on a window pane. She moves the pins. She is weaving a spiderweb of linen thread. It is a chantilly pattern. A flower blooms in the white space. She does not look at her hands. She looks at the pins. The bobbins fly. The lace grows by the millimeter. It is a fragile economy of knots and air. In a taller building in the city center, a different kind of delicate work is happening. A fan maker sits at a table covered in silk and ivory. He holds a set of sticks. They are carved from mother of pearl. They shimmer with iridescent light. He drills a tiny hole at the base of each stick. He threads a jeweled rivet through them. They fan out. He takes a semicircle of painted silk. It depicts a pastoral scene. Shepherds and shepherdesses. He folds the silk. Pleat, press, pleat, press. The geometry must be exact. He glues the silk to the sticks. He uses a brush with only a few hairs. The glue is clear. He closes the fan. The silk collapses into the folds. He opens it. The scene reappears. It is a kinetic painting. He checks the movement. It is smooth. It snaps shut with a satisfying whisper. We cross the square to a shop with a large pair of spectacles hanging outside. It is an optician's. The room is dim and quiet. A customer sits in a chair. The optician places a heavy trial frame on the customer's nose. It is made of brass and has slots for lenses. He opens a velvet-lined case. Rows of glass lenses sit inside. He selects one. He slides it into the frame. "Is this better?" he asks softly. He spins a chart on the wall. Letters of different sizes. He swaps the lens. He tries a concave one. He tries a convex one. He finds the point of clarity. The world comes into focus. He writes the prescription on a card. He moves to his workbench. He takes a round lens blank. He marks the center. He uses a diamond cutter to shape it to the frame. He grinds the edge on a whetstone. The glass becomes frosted at the rim. He snaps it into the wire frame. He tightens the tiny screw. The tool is no bigger than a needle. The glasses are finished. They are windows for the eyes. On the wall of the shop hangs a device of glass and mahogany. It is a wheel barometer. The maker is calibrating it. He holds a long glass tube closed at one end. He pours mercury into it. The liquid metal is heavy and silver. It forms a convex meniscus. He inverts the tube into a reservoir. The mercury falls, leaving a vacuum at the top. The weight of the atmosphere presses down on the reservoir. It holds the column up. He attaches a weight to the mercury surface. A string runs over a pulley to a needle on the dial. He marks the scale. Stormy, rain, change, fair, very dry. He taps the glass. The needle quivers. It settles on change. The instrument breathes with the sky. It feels the weight of the air before the clouds arrive. We leave the shop and walk toward the river. A large brick building stands at the water's edge. It has no windows on the ground floor. It is a paper stainer's factory where wallpaper is made. Inside, long tables stretch the length of the room. A roll of paper is unrolled. It is endless and white. A block printer stands by a tub of dye. He holds a large wooden block. Carved into the bottom is a design of ivy leaves. He dips the block into the felt pad soaked in green dye. He places the block on the paper. He strikes it with a mallet. Thump. He lifts it. The impression is left. He moves the block. He aligns the registration pins. He strikes again. Thump. The pattern repeats. Leaf after leaf. He works his way down the table. Another man follows him with a different block. This one adds red berries. The layers build up. The paper hangs in festoons from the ceiling to dry. It looks like a hanging garden. The smell is of pigment and size. The walls of 1,000 parlors are born here. Outside, the river flows steadily. A barge is moored at the quay. It is loaded with barrels of clay. We follow the clay to a pottery studio, but not for plates or jugs. This is a clay pipe maker's workshop. The air is dusty and dry. A woman sits at a bench. She takes a roll of white clay. She rolls it into a long, thin worm. This is the stem. She puts a ball of clay at the end. She places the clay into a 2-part iron mold. She inserts a wire down the stem to make the airway. She closes the mold. She places it in a screw press. She pulls the lever. The clay is squeezed into the shape of a pipe. She opens the mold. She removes the pipe. She trims the seam with a knife. She smooths the bowl with her thumb. She pulls out the wire. She places the pipe in a rack. It is fragile and damp. It must dry before it sees the fire. Thousands of pipes sit in rows. They look like white bones. The day begins to fade. The sun dips low over the chimney pots. We find ourselves in a narrow lane where a sign creaks in the breeze. Violin bow re-herring. But next to it is a door that leads to a different musical trade. We enter a high-ceilinged workshop. It is an organ builder's. The room is filled with pipes of all sizes. Some are wood, square and tall as trees. Some are metal, round and shining like silver flutes. A voicer stands at a voicing machine. He holds a metal pipe. He places it on the wind chest. He presses a key. A note sounds. It is breathy and harsh. He takes a small knife. He makes a tiny cut in the mouth of the pipe, the languid. He adjusts the upper lip. He presses the key again. The note is clearer. He listens. He shaves a sliver of lead. He tries again. Now the note is round and flute-like. It sings. He nods. He places the pipe in a rack. He picks up the next one. He is giving a voice to the wind. He is building a choir that will never breathe, but will always sing. He adjusts the wind pressure. The bellows sigh. The work continues in the twilight. The organ builder places the voicing knife on the workbench. He releases the key. The final note fades into the shadows of the high ceiling. The wind chest sighs as the bellows deflate. The leather ribs collapse slowly. The air becomes still. He blows out the candle on the voicing machine. The smoke rises in a thin, gray line. He walks to the heavy wooden door. He steps out into the lane. He turns the iron key in the lock. The bolt slides home with a solid thud. The workshop is sealed. The pipes stand in the darkness. They wait for the breath of tomorrow. The city is quieting down. The noise of the wheels and the hooves has faded. A night watchman walks down the cobbled street. He carries a lantern with a shutter. He wears a heavy coat against the evening chill. He stops at the gate of a merchant's yard. He tries the handle. It is fast. He rattles it gently. The iron holds. He marks the time in his head. He moves to the next door. His boots echo softly on the stones. He is the guardian of the sleep. He walks the perimeter of the silence. We drift toward the river. The mist is rising from the water. It wraps around the hulls of the moored barges. The vessels rock gently on the tide. A boatman sits on the stern of his barge. He is smoking a clay pipe. The tobacco glows red in the dark. He knocks the ash into the water. It hisses and vanishes. He looks up at the sky. The clouds have cleared. The stars are hard and bright points of light. He stands up. He descends into the small cabin. He closes the hatch. The river flows on. It is a ribbon of black glass reflecting the moon. The current moves toward the sea without a sound. In the house on the square, the day is truly done. The library is dim. The fire in the grate has burned down to embers. They glow with a deep, pulsing heat. A layer of gray ash covers the coals. The warmth radiates into the room. It touches the leather spines of the books. It touches the velvet of the armchair. A clock stands on the mantelpiece. It is made of black marble. The pendulum swings inside the case. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The rhythm is slow and steady. It measures the peace of the house. The house settles. The floorboards creak once as the temperature drops. The curtains are drawn tight. The heavy fabric muffles the world outside. The light from the street lamp filters through a crack in the drapes, casts a single, thin beam across the rug. The dust motes hang suspended in the light. They do not move. The air is heavy and comfortable. The work is finished. The tools are put away. The ledgers are closed. The machines are silent. The stone walls hold the quiet. The night is full and deep. The history rests. The story sleeps.